Right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the celebration of a dear friend, Jonathan Synnott. I'm Adrian, by the way. I lead the production team here at Sandals Church, so welcome, and so glad to see everybody here. Those that I know and those that I don't. What can I say about Jonathan? Jonathan was a solid dude, man. He was legit. He was a real deal. I actually met him right here. Came in one time when we joined the worship team, and came in with all his fancy equipment, thinking he was a big shot. And so I'm like, all right, let's check this guy out. He seems cool. Let's see what he's about. So I approached him, and man, he was just one of the coolest people I've ever known. Put up with me real quick, and I'm like, all right, you pass the test, bro. And we became friends since then. And then if you got a chance to know him like that, you know what I'm talking about, man. He was amazing. We had so many conversations in this space, so it's a beautiful thing to now be remembering him, celebrating him, because, man, just on those stairs right there, we said so many times and just talked about life and things that happened and God and Riley and Ethan. Man, I never saw your dad cry except when he was talking about you guys and how much he loved you guys. So he wasn't a perfect dude by any means. Nobody is perfect, but he was. He owned his stuff. He owned who he was, and for that he was able to love everybody for reals. Like I said, he was a solid man. He loved God. I know that. We talked about God so many times. He loved exploring the Word of God, who he was, and he loved sharing who God was to him and his life and how God has strengthened him through everything that he went through. I got a chance to meet his family recently, and wow, what a beautiful family he had. Everybody who came around him, and it all made sense then why he was the way he was. Because man, you guys are awesome. You guys are beautiful, and I'm so lucky that I know you guys. And he had this beautiful Irish pride in him, man. It was so cool, and that's one of the things that he was, And so I don't think that he would want us to be sad. I think right now he's looking at us from his. I imagine him. I don't know why. I'm a musician too, so I imagine him in an a beautiful garage with AC, and he's chilling in there with a couple of Marshall stacks, right, and his guitars, and he's worshiping, and he's reaching out to comfort us. So remember him for who he was, because he's still that person. Death is nothing. He's still with us. He's still in our hearts. He lives on in our hearts. He lives on in his kids. So I thank you all for being here. Love Jonathan. And without further ado, we're going to welcome a couple of speakers who will talk to us more about who he was and to celebrate him. All right? Is that good? All right, cool. Let's go.
Thank you all for coming to celebrate the life of Jonathan. If we haven't met, my name is Helen. I'm Jonathan's wife. Jonathan and I met on Tinder. I know. Yeah, what a place to meet, yeah? I called him my Tinder treasure. From our first conversation, I knew that this man was more than special. I didn't know we would fall in love. But I knew I needed to know him. Jonathan and I spent many hours talking before our first date, so I felt like I already knew him before I met him. After meeting him and being in his presence, I knew that I could never be without his energy. Our second date was actually spent over 2 days hanging out, watching movies, as he called it, being fancy, and getting DoorDash and Instacart. It took us 2 days to watch 40 minutes of a movie because we talked and laughed so much. And if you know him, then you know he loves the pause button. So, when Jonathan told me that he was battling his cancer, and he talked about his treatments and radiation and surgeries and everything that he had already experienced, I thought, wow, this man is a warrior. What courage he has, determination. And he asked me if that meant that I wouldn't want to date him, because who wants to date somebody with cancer? But the thought hadn't crossed my mind, that I wouldn't want to continue to date him and know him. But once you've met Jonathan and you know him, once you meet him, there's no turning back. During the year prior to meeting Jonathan, being divorced myself, I had decided that perhaps my ability to pick my person wasn't as good as what maybe Jesus could do. So I said, okay. And I prayed every day. I said, you can take over now. I've messed it up long enough, and I bought some self-help books on marriage and how to be a good spouse. And I learned that you have to be the kind of person who is a good spouse to have a good spouse and to do the work. So I'd made a list of everything that I wanted. Handsome, check. Smart, check. Witty, love music. Funny, caring, check. Love Jesus, have his own relationship with the Lord. Something that was independent of mine. And at the end, I always said, P.S. God, let him have tattoos. Amen. Jonathan was that. He was everything I prayed for and more. Things that I didn't think of asking for, he was. Handpicked with all of my specifications. A tattoo for Jonathan and I, we talked about everything. And I could give him the most obscure scripture reference, and he knew it. I could blurt out any random movie line or old TV commercial jingle. He knew it. His favorite thing to do was the most opportune moment, pause the movie, shout out, "Bye, men." Jonathan and I wanted to make sure that we were building our relationship on a strong foundation. We wanted to do it right this time. Communication between us was priority. Our relationship with God, both apart and together, was important to us. We prayed over each other. We prayed together. We watched teachings together and discussed. And for him, that was the pause button. Jonathan would remind me daily that I was the hands and the feet of Jesus. He would send me a scripture, and like the true teacher that he is, a summary with questions. made sure that I was understanding it. Because he wanted to both encourage and challenge me at the same time. He said, I absolutely loved his brain. I love to self-reflect and to learn how I can improve upon myself. And I welcomed his feedback, He fit that in me. I just want to thank the Synnott family for welcoming not only myself, but my daughter, Rebecca. We were immediately covered with love. From the first time I met the family, you all, I felt like we were a family. That's what he wanted. Jonathan was so happy that he could give me a family. I'd mentioned to him that growing up, I always felt like I had an orphan spirit. And never really knowing that feeling of family, roots, a home. And when we got married, he told me that I had a home and a family and roots. So thank you again to all of you for making that true. I love you all. Being the overthinker that I am, I was wondering, stressing, what do I say? What do I tell them? What do you want them to know? And he was always telling me, let me help you. I'm your partner. And I'm independent and stubborn. So for once I decided to listen to him, let him help me. So I'm going to read his words. Looking through his writings, there's this poem that he wrote. I think it was the 90s, could be the early 2000s. It's titled One Day. In your arms I dwell, in a place beyond time. Your sweet fragrance I smell with your lips against mine. Our hearts are on display as we speak our minds. Mold each other like clay. On a cloud as the clock chimes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4. Each dose of you makes me crave more. Your personality I can't ignore. As my walls fall to the floor of me, of this longing heart, you see perfectly that without you I fall apart. Only in my mind you exist for now. In my heart there is a spot for you. Your absence in my life I will not allow, as I pray that you will come true. But for now I hope and pray that I will find you one day. A tear of joy falls as I say, one day, one day. Because he was a romantic. His words. Thanking our God, he brought us together. I looked at this blank page and asked myself, what do I want to say to this woman who is with me every day? I cherish you, I need you, I want you, I desire you, I love you, I look forward to every day with you. The sound of your name on anyone's lips fill me with joy at the mere mention of you. You're lovely, you're beautiful, you're brilliant, you're smart, you're hilarious, you're the brightest element of my life. Everything is eclipsed when you're in the room. I don't know what else to say but that I love you in every sense that I know how to mean those words. You are a blessing in my life. You are a gift. I love our conversations. We talk about everything, and it is never negative or soul-sucking. I love our silliness and that we can be ourselves around each other. It is so life-giving. I love when you kiss my whole face. You are the love of my life. I didn't know what real love was until you. I wake up hearing your voice saying as you say every morning, thank you, Jesus, for this day. That gets me through the night. I say thank you about you constantly. I pray for you often. Your love is a pillar to me. There is an aching absence on my side every night you aren't here. You can't take a rib out and then have that rib walking around, not next to my side. It's unnatural. You are my Eve, my woman, made for me. Scarcely had I passed them when I found the one my heart loves. I held him and would not let him go. You are the one my soul recognizes. Are you going to get tired of me telling you I love you every day? Your husband, Jonathan. Jonathan changed me. He taught me what it was like to be a true peacemaker, to be a partner with God, what it means to be the hands and the feet of Jesus, to love the least of these. He brought love and laughter to my life. The greatest honor I can show him is to continue what he believed in, to show people Jesus through us. I love you, Jonathan.
An Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand.
Hey guys, my name is Dewan Anderson. I'm the worship leader here at Sandals. I spent a lot of time with Jonathan here. Like Adrian's talking about, I always, that's his spot right there. He would be here sometimes, and I was so happy when he would be in this spot because his voice was so awesome. Like he had just such a real voice. Our vision here is to be real with ourselves, God, and others. And I don't see too many people really just live that out like Jonathan did. Even before his battle, he was always the kind of guy who he would face things head on with the strength of God. He would love people with the love of God. And the reason that it was so great when he was in this spot is because he sang with the person who had the heart of God, and that would connect to people. Like one of the things that really gives me peace right now is knowing that Jonathan is maybe getting to see some of the lives that were changed that he didn't ever get to see. You know, some of the countless blessings that he offered other people by just being himself and just having that love flow through him while he was singing here. He's rocking out back there. He was always a guy who was head banging and stuff. And I'd have to look back sometimes because the whole church looked like they weren't even awake, and I'm just like, okay, there, let's go. Like he's here. This song is the last song that he led here, and it's just weirdly poetic because even before that, like there's a song that to me like just makes me think so much of Jonathan, that in his battle, whenever he had so much that he's dealing with, he would still sing. He would still sing, not like begrudgingly, but he would sing wholeheartedly. He'd give everything he had. So, you know, I'll put this to find right now. I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah
I want to first start by saying thank you to everyone here. It's been great to see a lot of familiar faces, people I haven't seen in a long time. And then to also see people that I don't know. It shows how many lives Jonathan's touched, and that we're all here to celebrate him. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you to Mark and Nicole for so much support and being with him in in these last few weeks and helping put all this together. And Helen, thank you so much for being by his side. My name is Seth Johansson. I'm gonna try my best not to ugly cry. I'm gonna cry. Jonathan was my best friend. We met in middle school back in '92, and our friendship expanded over 30 years. And thinking about Jonathan, as a young man, the thing I remember most distinctly about Jonathan back in those days was seeing him make out with his girlfriend every day in this front courtyard at the end of school. And it was really gross. And I often remind him of that embarrassing, youthful indiscretion later in his life. The thing I remember most distinctly about Jonathan, the man, was his keen intelligence, his sincerity, and his love and kindness. And then especially toward the end of his life, his immense wisdom and peace, and his unfailing courage and strength. There are so many things that I wish to never forget about him. You know, silly things from our youth, like hours and hours of SpongeBob, card baseball, and board games, and game conventions, and later on, being in a band together. You guys heard our music here that I haven't heard in years, making music, and our passionate discussions about faith and God. And even later still, seeing him become a father to Riley and Ethan, and him beside me as I became a father. He was a wonderful uncle to my kids, and always made himself available for birthday parties and get-togethers. And we used to joke that as old men, we were both smokers at one time in our life. We both joked that when we were old men that we were going to sit out on a porch and we were going to smoke old-fashioned pipes and discuss our lives together, and we wouldn't mind smoking because who cares, we were old, right? Truly a lifetime of memories with him that I fervently hold in my heart. Over those years, the depth of our friendship ebbed and flowed, as many friendships do. But it's really in the last 5 years that Jonathan became my best friend. During COVID, we started playing games over Zoom because what else was a video? And then we created a YouTube channel that broadcasted those games. And we realized that it was a silly passion project for two grown men. But in retrospect, I'm so grateful to have spent that time with him, just talking about the group, our games, our channel. It was so valuable to just share that creative experience with him. And it really helped to kind of form the bonds that were the basis of our friendship for the next 5 years. And these last few weeks have been really tough. And the fact that Jonathan is gone still hasn't really sunk in. My heart and my mind refuse to accept it. I went so long with having Jonathan as an absolute anchor in my life. And his presence now is, his absence now is just this gaping hole. And his friendship is impossible to replace. What I'll remember about Jonathan in the last few months of his life is his infectious peace and serenity. I remember wishing him a happy birthday on this last May 11th, and he responded with, "I'm just happy to be here another year." It was a lesson for me to never take for granted the time that you have left on this planet. And it was obvious to me how much value he placed on the time that he had left. And as my own personal life was tumultuous and stressful, his home was a refuge for me, calm and peaceful. He opened his house whenever I needed a moment away from mine. And we would sit and just talk. Literally just two chairs in the room facing each other, talking about life and his and mine, his diagnosis and his feelings going through all this, his hopes for the future, the difficulty and anxiety of forging new relationships for him. I mean, we got deep. And I'll never forget the last conversation that we had before he really got sick. And it was essentially the last time I was able to speak with him. I was washing dishes, and he called. And we spent about 30 minutes talking about his cancer, how the radiation didn't work, how he would need chemo. And he said he was going to beat it. He said, "I'm going to beat this." And he's like, I'm not ever giving up. And we talked about how excited he was about his new relationship with Helen and her kindness and how thankful he was to meet her. And after that conversation concluded, he said, "So I've been talking all about my life, like what's happening with you?" And I said, "I don't want to bother you with all of that. You've got all this stuff going on." And he was insisting. He said, "No, I want to hear about you. Like, what's going on?" And so then we spent the next 30 minutes talking about me and my life. Just the everyday struggles of adult life, balancing work, raising a family, managing a marriage. And even in the wake of all that was going on with him, he was able to give me such wise and profound advice. He encouraged open and calm communication and actually modeled how I should say things to resolve conflict. I always joke with him that he was like my therapist because he always had such great advice. And he encouraged me to have an awareness of the seasonality of life. That my current stage as a provider to a family and having to raise little ones, yes, it's hard, but it's only a season. And it's a time that I'll be grateful in future years when I look back. And then we both said we loved each other. And I told him, let's hang out soon. Rest in peace, Jonathan. I love you. How's it going, everybody? Glad to see you all. If you're in this room, you don't need me to tell you how special Jonathan was. I mean, that's as plain as it is. Okay? But his students can. I took over for Jonathan Synnott in the last few months of the school year, and one of his coworkers. And I took over in late February, and it was incredible because he texted me and let me know, "Hey, look, you're going to be in the class. Like, I want you there." And it was so special because somebody of his magnitude in my life, to hear those words, it's like I don't know, that's like, for instance, somebody that I idolize, that's like Brian Urlacher handing me a football saying, hey, go in for me, you know, like, that's what it felt like. And overall, it was an honor being in that classroom for those months. And the reason why it was even more special was because his students asked daily how he was, what he was, if I had talked to him recently, if they could reach out to him, if it was okay. And I was like, guys, like, if you want to email him, by all means, no problem. And I would text Jonathan, he'd be like, tell him, like, it's okay. Like, he was so moved to hear that they were all so just interested in how he was. They all knew about his battle. And he's somebody that never took a day off, guys. I mean, you know, for those of you who know him, I mean, he was there all the time. You couldn't get him out of that classroom. So that's why, you know, when I knew, when he told me, he's like, yeah, you're going in for me. I says, I got you. And that's when, you know, I mean, it was pretty serious, but he says, I'm good. And I talked to him every single day. I would text him, even if it was a little thing. I would send him something about God or just anything, just a little message, anything. And it was wonderful because we continued to just text every single day. We would talk about everything, including, of course, lesson plans and what we were doing for that week and everything. But the funny part is, what started out as lesson plans became just these hour-long conversations of just everything. I mean, you know, we weren't that far apart in age. We listened to the same music. We listened to, my gosh, we were into so many of the same exact things. We're both Lancers. You know, he graduated from CVU, so did I. We both love God. I mean, we were so many things that we connected on. And I'll tell you, the best part about being in that classroom, as I said, was not only the chance to take over and help, you know, his students to the finish line, was the fact that there were so many students that were touched. And they would come talk to me, could you tell him this, could you tell him that? I was moved by so many of the things he had said, guys. It was incredible. There was a few letters where oh my gosh, it hits me right now. I mean, even there were a couple letters where they said, can you do me a big favor? Can you take a picture of this and send it to him? The very first time that happened, I had to look away. I was, you know, I was kind of, okay, no problem. And I took a picture and sent it to him, and he said that he was actually in a treatment. And he says, and I was sitting there, he's like, and I was in tears when the doctor came in for me, and I says, oh my gosh, like, it made me cry at the moment. I was like, oh my gosh, like, but it just goes to show you, you know, Jonathan was somebody who he always let you know how he was feeling. His emotions were so strong. He can light up a room when he walked in. That's just who he was, and that's what the students loved about him, you know. And it was something that I just picked up on immediately. So I can tell you this, as a fellow musician, as somebody who spoke plenty about music together with him, as somebody who is, you know, in the same profession, as somebody who, as I mentioned, was at the same university, all of those things, Jonathan was just a wonderful human being who passed on all of these beautiful, wonderful traits to everyone he had spoken to, including his students. And you'd hear about them talk about, oh, well, you know, yeah, tell us, I'm listening to, you know, this band or this band. And I was like, you know who they are? Like, yeah, you told me about them. Like, you know, like, that's the kind of guy he was. He was just so open, so wonderful, such a genuine man. And I texted him all the way up until those last few days, and it sucked not hearing an answer back because I was just stressing, wondering, and unfortunately, when he did pass, it hurt because we had lost an incredible man to the world. And the students can tell you that. Once again, right now, you guys, I'm in the running right now for an internship finally after 4 long years of blood, sweat, tears. And that guy, this dude over here, prayed with me. He continued to tell me every day that you're good. But I would stop by and see him all the time, and I'd be like, this is never going to end, is it? Like these dumb little hoops we're going to jump through to be here. He's like, you got this. You're going to be just fine. And you know, it's in those moments when you know that is
what he's passing on to his students, because all of them, every one of them passed. Every one of them knew exactly what they were doing. Every one of those students are going to go off into this world and do great things. And it ain't because of me being there from February till May. It's because of him. And I am very proud to at least be there for that little bit of time. So, in conclusion, sorry for being a little bit long, but I will tell you, in conclusion, as somebody who is about to embark on my journey being an educator, I can tell you, that was my master teacher, and I learned plenty from him. I learned plenty from a lot of you in this room. And he was definitely one of those ones who took the extra time to always encourage, to always give the time when he needed to, and to pick you up, even in the toughest spots. And that is why his kids loved him so much. Rest in peace, Jonathan. I love you, brother. Thank you, guys.
Hi again. So we've heard a lot about just how much Jonathan loves music. He really did. And his family, when they asked, like, hey, can you play a song like from his favorite songs on his Spotify playlist? And I was like, oh man, because I had an idea of how eclectic his musical tastes are, but I had no idea when they sent me the screenshots. I'm like, dude, this guy is all over the place. I love all his rap and hardcore and just everything. I was really mad that he never told me how much he liked the Strokes, but we'll talk about that later. But one thing I noticed, this band kept coming up, City and Color, like all over the place. And so I kind of dove in them a little bit. I've never listened to them too much myself. And the song stuck out to me in particular because it felt like a song that he would want sing over his loved ones. He would, as you guys have heard and know, even when he's dealing with his stuff, he was so concerned in making sure the people that he loves are okay. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's that right now, that he's wanting to, like this, there's no way to get around how terrible this is. But he wants us to know that, like, there's comfort. So yeah, here's. If I should go before you, when that long night comes, we'll meet in the end after. Please don't follow me into the sun. into the great unknown. I'll leave my ghost right beside you. You won't have to wait alone. And when the night cries itself away, dying in the light of day, our endless love will remain until we meet again. Crying ourselves away, dying in the light of day. Our endless love will remain until we meet again. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Adam. Just kind of want to start. I've been doing everything I can to just keep centered this entire time, and it's just not it. I will never forget the day we met for the first time, and I was completely unaware that you would mean so much to me. I would like to do things a little bit differently. I could stand here all afternoon and regale everyone with stories and memories of Jonathan. But everyone here already knows he was not just a man, but a beacon of inspiration and a testament of the power of kindness, dedication, and unwavering strength. I would like for everyone to take a couple minutes and think back to the first time you met Jonathan. What was that first meeting like? And what was it during that meeting that made you instantly aware that your life was now better knowing that Jonathan was in it? Was it when he came over with other friends to help you move without having to ever be asked? Was it his inspirational music being played that just welcomed you with open arms? Was it the telling of an inappropriate joke spoken at the right time that to this day still brings an outward chuckle? Or was it when he welcomed you into his classroom with a giant smile that told you this is going to be a great year? Or was it what turned out to be a countless number of times Jonathan's words and encouragement helped you along your spiritual path? Jonathan's presence was a source of comfort, his wisdom a guiding light, and his actions a testament to his unwavering principles. Now I would like everyone to think back to your greatest and happiest memory you share with Jonathan. Perhaps that memory was an exceptionally fun game night, or an afternoon spent around the tabletop battlefield. Or maybe it was what seemed like a random text message he sent you just asking how things are, because he told you he just felt the urge to reach out to you. Or maybe it was that amazing hug that he was giving you that you just didn't want to end. What about that time Jonathan dropped everything he was doing to come pick you up and take you to the dentist because you were too afraid to go on your own? True story, by the way. 3 words: Dodger date night. Was it one of the many school assemblies where his uplifting and inspirational music was on center stage? Or how about the many times just hanging out with him at an event and him just being there made it more enjoyable and memorable? Jonathan has always been and will continue to always be a pillar of strength and support. He dedicated himself wholeheartedly to serving others, whether it was through the church, charitable endeavors, or just simply extending a helping hand to others.
His kindness knew no bounds, and his generosity touched countless people. Jonathan's life was not without its challenges, though. Yet he faced them with unwavering faith and unshakable trust in God's plan. His resilience in times of adversity was a testament to his deep spiritual strength and conviction. Hebrews 13:7 tells us, "Remember those who led you, who spoke the word of God to you, and considering the result of their conduct, imitate their faith." Goodbye, my friend. I already miss you so much. Your faith has inspired us all, and your memory will forever be a blessing for us. I love and miss you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Bring my water up. You know me, I don't go anywhere without it. I'm Nicole, Jonathan's sister-in-law. Read mine so that I stay, Today I stand before you to share a glimpse into the precious sons that we have with my brother-in-law, Broham, Namath, Jonathan, John, and Mr. Synnott. As some of you know, Jonathan spent the final chapter of his life often in Mark and I's home, coming over 3 days a week, most weeks. It was a time that transformed our lives and deepened our bonds in ways that I will be eternally grateful for. Tuesdays were Dungeons and Dragons during the day, and at night he would go in the spa and play music with Mark. Wednesdays, him and I would pick out a board game to play before our Bible discussion group that evening, and then more spa and music time at night. And Thursdays, after the Bible discussion group, we would be very philosophical, wanting to talk all about life. So that's what that would be. He was not just a guest, he became an integral part of our daily rhythm, enriching our lives with his humor, his thoughtful conversations, his passion for God, and talent for music. In those months, we shared more than just physical space. We shared laughter and tears, stories and silences, 20-second hugs, and shared joy in watching our dogs become a pack. Jonathan's humor, sometimes inappropriate, yet always heartfelt, brought levity to even the most somber moments. His deep love for his children was evident in every conversation and every memory he shared. His joy in meeting and falling in love with Helen was the highlight of what we didn't know were his final months. As we reflect on those last months together, I am reminded of the lessons Jonathan taught us all, to cherish each day, to find joy in the small things, to hold fast to the bonds of family and friendship, and that it's never too late. It's never too late to make amends. It's never too late to fall in love, to make a change or learn something new. His time with us was a gift, a reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the importance of living it fully, with love and purpose. Though Jonathan is no longer with us in body, his spirit remains intertwined with ours, a constant presence in our memories and hearts. Today we celebrate his life, a life filled with music, faith, laughter, and love. We will forever remember and cherish our Jonathan, and have deep gratitude for the indelible mark he's left on all of our lives. I'd like to share with you a poem that I wrote for Jonathan as I was on my way to see him for the last time. He had already passed. It's called 72. They say 42 is the answer to all things. Well, I humbly disagree. For me, it's 72, and unlike them, I offer reasonings. 72 was the number of hours you spent in my home each week. 72 was the number of points I often won by in our games. 72 was the number of times we fought over blue. 72 was the number of our sis and bro nicknames. 7 was your lucky number, though I often called you the number 2. And if you flip the numbers, 27 was the number of years I knew you. 72 was the number of characters we had played, often around a table rolling dice, laughing and pretending in worlds we created. free of all the sufferings of this life. 72 may not be for us all a cherished memory that will never wane. But for me, 72 will forever remind me of you. 72 will always remain. As we move forward, let's carry Jonathan's enthusiasm for life, his curiosity, his knack for bringing laughter even into the most somber moments. After all, he'd probably say, with a little more colorful language, F cancer. Find your joy, be the peacemaker. Remember the good times and forgive everything else. Now I would like to introduce a song that was created on one of those many nights with Mark and Jonathan in the garage. They wrote it together for their Aunt Mills, who passed away from cancer last year. It's called Aunt Mills, and it was produced by Jonathan's oldest son, Moreno. And now it's being shared with all of you. Miss Aunt
Songs available on every music service, by the way, Spotify, YouTube, everything. You can check it out. Another band called Synnott. Thank you. That's all true. My name is Mark Synnott. I am Jonathan's identical twin brother. I mean, just for height, I think. All right, I'll just do it. For some of you, you don't know me. I have to tell you, this is not having a Lazarus moment here. I am his identical twin brother. I've heard from a few of you in the church that went here because I did not go here that I sound like him, I laugh like him, I talk like him, and that's because we are in many ways extremely the same, and in a lot of ways extremely different, because that's how twins work, in case you guys don't know. But I'm going to tell you, it's when we were trying to plan this, my wife, Nicole, has done an amazing job putting this all together. Thank you, honey. It was originally meant that I would do a eulogy, and, I said, I'm not going to be able to do that. Come on. Jonathan led so many different walks of life that it would be unfair just for me to come up and say one perspective. And so that's why we've had so many different speakers come up today. We talked about this and planned it out and said it would be better to have different people from his walks of life so you can get a full picture of who he was. So if I'm going to do some sort of eulogy, then I'd have to talk about his life. But as his identical twin brother, I can tell you that I've been there for his entire life. I first got to know him in the womb. We made a lot of jokes about that, because like, stuff like, all right, I'm just going to say this. I know we're in a church, but I'm going to cuss. It's who me and my brother were. We just cuss. We're going to say things. So we have all the jokes like, oh, why'd you come out so ugly? It's because my ass was in your face a little bit. We got like all the jokes. Who was born first? I was born first. I'm 2 minutes older, so you do all the like, well, I got 2 more years of wisdom and age and all that. And he's like, no, they just had to get you out. And I said, well, you had to cook longer, like stuff like that. Or, if you've been around us, if you've worked with us, you've been involved in those conversations, and you can watch the back and forth of me and my brother. Most of the time, we come up with new shit every single time. And it was great. I, of course, love my brother. When I pray, I tell God, I am undone. I know many of you in this room feel the same way. So if I'm going to talk about his life and I'm there, I'm just going to tell you what happened in our life real quick. I'm going to try to be quick. We were trying to tell everybody 5 minutes, and I said, well, if you ever were around Jonathan, he blabbed and blabbed and blabbed. And guess what? We're alike, so I'm going to blab and blab and blab. This is true. One of the last, I was at his house, and I was spending the night, because like my wife said, we spent it. Throughout his last radiation, it's this 3rd time around, we spent, I guess, almost every single day together at each other's houses. And he talked so much and I talked so much that we literally had to get out a notebook one night and like write down the things that, oh no, pin that one, put it on the note. And then we had to sit there, and it took until 2 in the morning to get through the list because we would not shut up because that's how much. But that's the relationship I have with my brother. No holds bars, no ever holding back with each other. Brutal and utter honesty since day one. That's who we were to each other. And they say iron sharpens iron. Like, that's what we did our entire life together. So I'll tell you about our childhood. The school years, we had every single class together from kindergarten through college. I'll answer to you, Larry. Every single class together, even through college. In school, we only had one class different. It was an English class. Now, we were different students. I had a different temperament in high school. He was more like wanting to get good grades. I didn't give a shit, like that kind of thing. And I gave my English teacher a tough time. He was a weak teacher. And I didn't know anything about teaching back then, but he was a weak teacher. And I just gave him all this struggles in the classroom. And so me and my brother were like, hey, let's switch classes, because that's the #1 question. People are going to ask us this the rest of our life. Did you ever switch classes? I'm like, yeah, we did. So here's the story. We switched classes one time. I sat in his class, and they passed out a vocabulary test. And I completely bombed it. And then in my class, he got yelled at by the teacher all the time. And that was our only class experience, man. Then he said, I'm never doing that again, man. Like, what'd you do to that teacher? And it's why we both taught reading intervention with the toughest kids in Paris Valley, is because we're like, hey, we're good. We know you. I know you. So we worked every single job together since we were 15 years old. We were at the Parish Union High School together for 17 years. It was 6 months apart. I got the job first at Pentecostal Middle School. I see a lot of my old friends here. And then 6 months later, the principal, Charles Newman at the time, I said, hey, this teacher just left. We have an open English position. You should hire my brother. He's currently baking in Arizona. I don't know why he's out there. Because he went to Arizona for 2 years. It was a tough it was, man. So he comes back, and Charles goes, well, you're a good guy. You have all the same school. And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, you're a good teacher. He's probably a good teacher. I never do this, but I'll do a phone interview. And he hired him. Winter break, he moved back here, and he started at Pentecostal Middle School with me. And you guys remember those days? I can see my friends right here. We We started playing music together at 7 years old, keyboards together. That was me playing keyboard on the song. That's my other instrument. Most people know me as a drummer with Jonathan. I was always his drummer for years and years and years. But my first instrument's piano, and so we played it like a Sunday thing, and we put these little like dinky $20 keyboards in front of us, and we can always just play. It's that Irish kind of heritage. Our grandfather, my mom's dad, is a famous Irish musician, and we just got that gene, and we ignored it after that until we were 18 years old, and we picked up instruments. I never played drums in my life, and he never played guitar yet. You know, like we've all heard about the music, except all of you guys got to hear him when he was good. None of you had to sit there in a room, because we also shared a room all of our life, and none of you guys had to sit there, and you guys all know this. If you know someone that first learns guitar, this is what they do. Stare at you while they play. Right? And so I'm on my bed, he's like, bro, let me play this thing for you. And then he just sits there and stares at me. And he's like, you should play something too. I was like, I don't want to play, man, it's you. And he's like, oh, dude, play drums. And so I bought a drum set, and then Seth was up there, he was our singer at the end, and Mike's out here, he was our bassist, and then we traveled all over Southern California playing. We played at the Whiskey in Hollywood. Like, it was before YouTube, so you can't find our music anymore. But we did that together. Of course, because we've did our whole lives together. At 24 years old, when we were 24, remember, we're identical twins, so when we were 24, I got third stage cancer and 15 tumors in my body. I took 16 rounds of chemo, and I was healed, obviously. And my brother was there for me when I was done with chemo. He gave me a place to live. He helped me get back on my feet. I said, what am I going to do, bro? I don't know what to do now. And then he's like, he had been a new teacher for about a year and a half. He said, bro, I think you should teach. I was like, dude, that sounds like the worst job ever. And my brother is the one that encouraged me to teach. I got cancer our senior year of college at Cal Baptist, and my brother went to class every day. We had all the same classes, and he came back home, and he would help me with my work and turn in my work while I went through chemotherapy, because that's what my brother did when I had cancer. Afterward, we started working at Synnott Middle School. Just a couple of years after that is when we both started working there. I was just learning how to live again, super skinny, and my brother helped me back on my feet. Being teachers together, we taught at Synnott Middle School together for 10 years before moving on to other jobs in the district. We perfected our craft together. Larry talks about Jonathan being a master teacher. That came from carpooling every day and spending our lunches together every day and just talking about how do we do this shit? But to be a good teacher, you don't give up, ever. You give up. The students are done. Who do they have if you give up? And if you're a parent, who does your kids have if you give up? So Jonathan would never give up, like we wouldn't give up. So it's like, we're not going to quit, so how are we going to do this? And so we perfected our craft together. I talked to him a great deal about classroom management. We talked a great deal about that. Jonathan went on to teach other people in the district classroom management. He is a wonderful teacher. The kids always knew that he loved them. Toward the end of his career, he ended up at Heritage High School, handling the seniors. And then Larry stepped in. Thank you so much for being there for him, Larry. But when we talk about the middle school, we just put on shows for kids. Like, we put on rock shows. We dressed up stupid. We wore wigs. We did 80s things. And I get on the drums, and we have the best relationships with the kids because we just hung out with them. And just everything you heard everybody say that who Jonathan was, like, that's what we did. Like, just love kids. We've been in Paris for I lived there for 10 years. The world needs our help. The world needs us. And so Jonathan was never going to give up on that. So let's play music for the kids. So we do it. They would give us half the day off. We're like, can you get the full day off? Like, who wants to go back? I gotta go back. Back to the classroom. So I don't have a script, but I wrote a story. It's called a K-Cup story. So here's the K-Cup story. We had classrooms right across from each other, and so we thought it would be fun. I don't know how it started, but one of his kids comes over and he just starts calling me Nancy. And then like 30 more kids call me Nancy, and then I'm like, why are you guys calling me Nancy? And then my brother comes up to me after school, hey, did the kids call you anything today? Yeah, they called me Nancy all day. Like, so then we had to go to war, of course. So then all my kids called them Martha for a full month, and it was just Martha and Nancy walking down the road, and all the kids would just get all excited because, like, school can be fun. Teacher, if you're a teacher out here, it's okay to show your personality to kids, by the way. They respect that way more than so the K-Cup story is after the Nancy and Martha debacle. That is, one of us always had the coffee maker, and any Synnott, we all drink coffee. Me and Jonathan drink black coffee, have since 12 years old, thank you, Mom. And we always drank black coffee, and so but one of us had to have the coffee maker, and it was a Keurig, and they just came out, and we're like, look at this cool shit, you just put the pot in and all that. And so what it was is, there would be, right after lunch, fifth period, we have to have our afternoon coffee, and the student would knock on the door, and he'd have a K-Cup and a coffee cup, and it'd be my brother's coffee cup and a K-Cup, and he's like, Mr. Synnott needs coffee. And I go, oh, come on in, and then I'd make the coffee, and the student would hold it, walking home. And then, next year was Jonathan's year to have the coffee maker, and then my kids had to do that, but the kids would line up for who's going to go get the coffee. Jonathan as a teacher can be summed up in 4 words. Calm, respect, dignity, and guide. You do the first 3, you can guide your students. At the end of his life, this is how he treated everyone. Jonathan did many other things that you may not know about. Did you guys know he was a missionary docent, like a guide? Like he literally knew everything about Riverside. And we went on a tour with him, and I was just blown away. Like he goes all around the mission and explains everything, and he's all like professional, and like the guy knew everything. And I'm sitting there going, of course he does. He's such a nerd. And he wrote poetry. You guys have heard that today. He wrote a lot of poetry. He wrote short stories. Do you guys know he was published multiple times in China? He was published multiple times in China. There's Chinese writers that would reach out to him for editing. Like, he's the real deal, guys. He didn't just talk about this stuff, he did it. He wrote many songs. I had the privilege to write many with him. Jonathan was a creator, just like the God he put his trust in. I'm getting to the end here. I haven't lost it yet. I didn't want to come up here, but I didn't want my brother to call me a bunch of names when I see him, as he would. I had the privilege of, when Jonathan was in the hospital, when we got him there again, I had the privilege of officiating his wedding to Helen in the Loma Linda Chapel. It's one of the proudest things of my life is to be there and marry my brother off to the love of his life, Helen. It was beautiful. It's what he wanted. And so going back to when I had cancer and my brother was there for me, there's not a single second I was going to miss. And I want to thank the Paris Union High School District for their grace with me in the month of June. And the love that everybody has shown me from our district. It's amazing. So I want to stop and thank you for that. All right, here we go. So I told these doctors, this guy's never going to quit. If he came to the hospital, he probably saw me there until I took the midnight shift with Riley, and we stayed up all night to make sure Jonathan was. But if I was normally at the hospital, I told every doctor, this guy will never quit. No matter what you do, he's not going to quit. He was a complete and utter badass. He went through 106 radiation treatments, 5 surgeries, some disfiguring. And he had 1 round of chemo that I sat there with him, so I could be there with him for chemo, because it was the one thing. It's like, dude, I saw you through chemo, and I was there with him for that. At the end, the cancer had invaded his entire body. All of that, none of that changed him at all. If you came to the hospital during these last couple of weeks, you saw that. He opened his eyes, and he wanted to reach out, and he wanted to hug you. And many of you in this room, he did. At the end of his life, any loose ends in his life are reconciled. He didn't quit until he talked to you. And some of you know what I mean when you came in. He passed complete. We all just wish we had more time. So we've heard a lot of, I'm the last up today, so don't think like, oh man, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm introducing the slideshow in a minute. We sit here in a life complete. Well, what do we do now? We've been mourning the whole time and telling all the stories, crying. What do we do with a life like this? What do we do now going forward? We're here for Jonathan, but let's be honest, this service is for us. So what do we do now? Jonathan always said, especially in the last few years of his life, I only follow Yeshua of Nazareth. And that means Jesus of Nazareth to us in the West. He's a deep Hebrew study of the Bible. He didn't just take a surface little Bible. He wanted to know what it said. Jonathan believed in loving your neighbor and enemy and not judging anyone. Period. I need some people to hear that in today's culture. I'll say it again. He believed in loving your neighbor and your enemy and not judging anyone. Period. Because that's what it means to follow his Yeshua of Nazareth that he called his rabbi, his teacher. Jonathan told me when he was dying, I had my last conversation with him, just me and him, this was with chemo. He was fully alert back then, and we had 3 hours together, and I was just like, bro, I was holding his hand, and he's just looking at me, and I said, bro, I told you I cuss guys, and I was like, bro, what do I do now? Like, what do I do? Because we always told people that get cancer, because I've had cancer in Jonathan, as we tell people, like, the patient should never have to take care of somebody else. And at this point, I broke down, needing my brother to take care of me. This is what he said. Keep going. I said, what do I tell the world, dude? He said, keep going. So I'll tell you what he meant. And I'll finish with this. He meant he didn't want me to stop our mission together of taking care of this world. So I tell you, all of you, keep going. Do whatever you can to provide peace, understanding, and wisdom to those around you. This is what Jonathan did until his last breath. This is the Jonathan that you knew. He would tell all of you, keep going. Take his example, learn from him in his final act as a teacher, and pass this test with your family and your loved ones and everyone you come in contact with. Like my dear brother, live your life in a way that seeks complete harmony with others, and please take care of our world. Jonathan would say, create shalom, which means peace. Keep going. As for me, when I see him again, I will give him a full report. I thank all of you for being here. Let's go.
But there is no fear in love. There is no fear in love. There is no fear involved with love. It gives and doesn't take. It bargains without price. It takes pride by the throat and demands its due. Oh, stupid flesh, love is right outside your pores.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for being here. What can I say, man? I told you guys, he's a solid dude, man. We all love him so much. We're going to miss him so much. I was going to read this earlier today, but I wasn't sure. But after hearing everybody share, and we're all aware of Jonathan's faith, I read it this morning, and it just reminded me of who Jonathan was. This passage from the Bible. It's from 1 Timothy 6:12. And I hope that as you hear it, it brings you comfort and also gives you the courage to do, as what Mark said, to keep going. Because this world does need us, man. And if you were touched by Jonathan's life, honor him by doing that. It says, fight the good fight of faith. Take hold of the eternal life which you were called and about which you made the good confession in the presence of so many witnesses. And that just speaks to me of who Jonathan was. So I'll leave you with that. And I thank you. And Jonathan, we love you. And thank you for being here.